What's up, college football fans? Noe Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show today, joined by Nathan from Go Tech. Please don't die, and we're going to jump into a little bit of this North Texas Louisiana Tech game coming up this Saturday. But before we do all of that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football and G5 football and college football recruiting, consider hitting that subscribe and like button because that is truly all that we talk about. All right, Nathan. Well, thanks for jumping on with me.
Yeah,
How's life as a Louisiana Tech fan right now? And this football season thus far.
honestly, it could be worse. This has been a roller coaster of a year, like you kind of expect it to be. A fierce to your head coach, but it feels like game after game, we feel like, okay, yeah, this is a bowl team. Maybe no, this is not a bowl team. This is we'll be lucky to win one more game to just beating UTEP and going, hey, look, we're not the worst in the conference at least, so that has to say something. Just it's been a wild ride so far. It's kind of exciting. First new coach since 2013, so it's a lot of fun right now.
Yeah, and first year coach, obviously all this conference movement stuff and just this, that, and the other. A lot of stuff has transpired this off season for you guys. So do you almost feel? I don't know. Asking. Do you feel like you don't want to drink the blue Kool-Aid, but are you tempted to? Like how? I mean, are you feeling like you guys might be able to play for conference at the end of this? What is your thoughts? For this season.
Yeah, and again, it depends on what week you're asking me. We just won a game, so I'm going to be pretty excited right now. Going into the year, I kind of felt like with how bad Conference USA can be at times, usually if you're a somewhat decent team, you can scrape by and get 6 wins. And that's all you really need to go bowling. So the idea being, well, who cares about Missouri? Who cares about even Stephen F. Austin or South Alabama? If we get to conference play and our team looks all right, we have a pretty good shot of getting 4, maybe 5 wins in conference if we need them, and then going bowling. And then South Alabama happened. And the Jaguars are a pretty good Sun Belt team, but in the past, and I'm not just speaking for our former athletic director when I say uh, playing a Sun Belt team usually meant a win. Tech had never lost prior to the New Orleans Bowl in 2020 to a Sun Belt team. So that was kind of a shakeup. This was our first ever regular season loss to one, and it kind of had us all feeling down in the dumps, having us all feeling like, okay, well, when does basketball season start? When does baseball season start? And just kind of looking forward to moving on with our lives. But then the UTEP game happened last week after our bye week, and our offense clicked. Didn't have any interceptions after leading the Division One football in interceptions thrown, and just it was a fun time. It was a wild ride, and so I feel really good. I feel as on top of the world as you can, being ranked lower than 100 in the SP Plus poll. It's great. It's great being a Tech fan right now, I think, at least.
All right. So it's kind of talking about, diving into this game and speaking on quarterbacks a little bit. I was listening to North Texas's presser today where they talked, with Coach Trell and some of the players. And one of the players was Austin Ani, UNT's quarterback. And, he came out of Argyle High School in 2012, did the New York Yankees thing for like 4 or 5 years or whatever. So he's pretty old. He's 29. So when he was coming back into college football, Sonny Cumbie, believe I remember, I'm quoting what he said, right? Tried or offered him a walk-on spot at TCU because that's where Cumbie was.
Mhm.
And, I think Ani might have went to Arkansas after that as a walk-on and then came to North Texas. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting. So now, they're playing against each other and are coaching against, play or whatever. But that's kind of interesting. But anyway, speaking of your QB though, Parker Mcneil, what are your thoughts on him? I mean, 4 touchdowns, right, against UTEP?
Yeah. And no interceptions, which is the big part of it,
Yeah.
because that's been a problem this year from him. Uh, 12 touchdowns on the year, which is not bad, but 7 picks. Before this game, he was 8 and 7 touchdown interception ratio. There were some all right, decent, like off the receiver's hands, gets batted up in the air and gets picked off kind of interceptions that are kind of excusable. You don't really want to hold that against your quarterback. But then there were others that were just, what are you doing? And in fact, against South Alabama, he threw one of those "What are you doing?" interceptions. Got benched for a couple drives. We put in our guy who had started the first game of the season as our starter, Matt Downing, and at quarterback for a couple drives. Turns out he didn't do much better, and then we put Mcneil back in. A lot of our fan base was calling for us to start our true freshman prize recruit Landry Liddy, including kind of myself, to be honest, going into
Mm.
this UTEP game thinking, well, we got nothing to lose, so I might as well throw him in there. Turns out that Mcneil can play when everything is going for him. And granted, UTEP's not the best defense we'll face all year. North Texas isn't either, luckily for Tech fans. But I am really hoping that everything negative that I said about Parker McNeil during the bye week turns out to be not true because he has proved me wrong at least so far through conference play.
Yeah, and partner with him, you've got Crosby. Obviously, he's doing pretty well, and then the Harris tandem at
Yeah,
receiver,
not
Smoke
brothers.
Harris and Trey Harris.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, what? I do you think this is more Cumby's offense that the reason why like we're starting to see like the passing success, or do you think it's just these players like receiver wise are just that good?
I think a lot of it has to do with scheme, and that comes from the coach. Uh, Smoke Harris has been on the team for a few years now, and he's always been seen as a threat. He's always the kind of guy that you never know what he's going to do when he has the hands in it, when he has his ball when the ball is in his hands. But But whenever we got him the ball, it seemed to, like, not do anything. We'd have screen passes that just got blown up. We tried to go downfield, but it was an overthrown pass. It wasn't like he was doing nothing, but it felt like we weren't really using his talents to the best we could. And we saw some of that during the South Alabama game as well, where it looked like, "What are we doing with Smoke? This isn't working." What we saw this past week, it worked. We were able to get him involved. Trey Harris, doesn't have the speedster look to him, but he's been a solid guy. Griffin Abear has been my favorite one to watch because he had a crucial touchdown grab against Southern Miss a couple years ago, and we don't forget our victories over Southern Miss because they happen so infrequently. It's a pretty well-rounded receiving room that I think that Coach Cumby is able to create an offensive scheme that matches what he has talent-wise. All right, we have a speedster and Smoke. Let's find a way to get the speedster involved. Okay, we have a big boy who can line up as at tight end and Griffin Abear, who also has solid hands and then can torch the secondary after he catches the ball in space. The first 3 games, he had each a 75-yard touchdown pass after a touchback, where we just blew the game open that way, even if we were already down by more points than that. It was just a way that Cumbie gets these receivers involved in the game that are a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, all right. In your opinion, what does Louisiana Tech need to do this Saturday to get a win over North Texas?
I think that first step, we need to not turn over the ball. Whether that's interceptions, we had you mentioned Crosby earlier, the running back, he fumbled the ball once when it was getting kind of dicey against UTEP at one point in that game. We need to take care of the ball hugely. We need to make sure that we don't throw easy pick sixes because the Mean Green offense, from what I've seen, they won't be afraid to score points. We need to make the most of the opportunities that we have. And a defense that statistically has not looked good by North Texas, at least from what I've seen, we need to take advantage of that and put points up on the board. And not turning the ball over will be huge. And then if we're also able to force some interceptions ourselves, we have some pretty good defenders that we stole from the FCS school we actually played this year. If we're able to utilize them, create some extra possessions, it really, I think, comes down to the turnover battle.
All right. And on looking at things through the other side, what do you think North Texas has to do in order to, exploit some of Tech's weaknesses and and come out with a win?
Yeah, so Tech has not been great at defending the run this year. That wasn't as true against UTEP, but even UTEP had some success. But against earlier teams in our schedule, it felt like we were a revolving door. You try to run the ball against us, you get 8 or 9 yards. It's no big deal. Just keep doing it. And that's what really we were afraid of with UTEP. And North Texas likes to run the ball a lot too. So the idea that if you're able to just commit to the running game, find some early success, uh, try not to throw when you can avoid it because we have some great guys who can create some extra possessions in the secondary. But if we're able to get that ground game going, I think you'll have a very good time against Louisiana Tech this year.
All right. So, and you kind of broke down two different things that could happen for each team. But what do you honestly think is going to happen? If you had to predict a score, who do you think wins? Who do you think loses? And can you give us your score?
Yeah. So going in, North Texas is favored by what, 6.5 right now by Vegas.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that honestly sounds kind of right for what we've seen from these teams. Tech has been a roller coaster of a team. It feels like we have very high highs and just as low lows. I haven't followed North Texas as closely throughout the year, but I think with the exception of there was one loss to a pretty bad team that was it UNLV?
UNLV. Yep.
Yeah. With that exception, it feels like, okay, they've won the games they're supposed to and lost the games they're supposed to. It really comes down to whether or not Tech is the team that we hope they are, or I hope they are, you hope they aren't,
Mhm.
versus the team that they've shown in some of these games. I'm going to homer a little bit and pick Tech to win in a very close game. I'll say by a point, something like 42-41 or something like that. I think it'll be very high scoring. But I can easily see this being a game where the Tech offense is just flat and North Texas ends up winning by 3 or 4 touchdowns too. It's really hard to tell right now.
Dude, yeah, it's I feel like when North Texas and Louisiana Tech plays, it's always, I don't know, a cluster, man. It's just
Yeah, we have a
stress.
4-game winning streak to protect right now, don't we?
I know you do. I know. Yeah. I mean, and it's that, that, back in 2018, 2017, that one that you guys won and didn't, and really just ruined our everything. But
Yeah, you're
anyway,
welcome.
yeah, we'll see. But all right, Nathan. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. And yeah, guys, you can find Nathan over there at Go Tech. Please don't die. I will put the podcast link in the description, so you can go over there and listen to all the things that they do. But once again, Nathan, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.